on the outlook for gold, including what the crisis in Syria means for the commodity. We're joined by Peter Schiff, CEO of Euro Pacific Capital. Peter, thanks for joining us again.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Peter, gold is down about 15% over the past year, but it recently broke through the 1400 level and is up about 3% for the month. It did drop a little today and yesterday. So is gold a solid safe haven hedge for the Syrian crisis?
Well, sure. You just talked about the Indian government maybe trying to convince their citizens to sell their gold. I would hold on to gold rather than the rupee. In fact, I'd rather hold on to gold than just about any fiat currency for that matter. So, yeah, I think that you have a lot of excess money printing around the world. And, excuse me?
You'd hold on to gold rather than the dollar?
Well, absolutely. Why would I want the dollar? The reason you talked about the problems in some of the emerging markets where the currencies are going down. Well, the reason that's happening is because the central banks in those countries made the mistake a couple of years ago when the Federal Reserve first launched QE and we were flooding the world with money. All these central banks were printing money too to try to prevent their currencies from rising too much against the dollar. That was a mistake. They should have just let their currencies go up. That would have put a clamp on some of those inflows because the currencies would have gotten more expensive. Instead, they accommodated what the Fed was doing, and now it's turning around and biting them because now that money is leaving and it's creating a problem. And so this shows you what happens when you artificially intervene and try to suppress your currencies. Now, I think the investors around the world are making a mistake by buying dollars. If they think they're going to get better economic growth in the United States, they're wrong. We're going back into recession. So I think these flows are going to reverse, but certainly short term, it creates a lot of instability in the currency markets.
So if you think that the equity market in the U.S. is going to lose some of its luster, does that put gold back on top? And do you think we're going to see gold at 2,000 again? And how soon?
Well, it never quite made it there the last time. It got up to 1,900, I think. But I think it's going to be well above 2,000. The gold bull market really began in around 1999. And it's going to continue. We've had a few corrections along the way. Most recently, we had one in the latter half of this year. But I think we've most likely seen the lows in that correction. And I think you've got a lot of bearish sentiment that was built up, as well as a lot of short positions that built up in gold over the last few months. I think those positions are going to be unwound in a way that's going to be very painful for the shorts.
Well, what is the worst case scenario for the situation in Syria? Because it's had an impact on gold. Then as talk of any military action is subsiding, gold's dropped off on that. What is going to be the relationship between gold and Syria? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I have no idea what the worst case scenario would be. I mean, there's probably some pretty big worst case scenarios that you can run by. I mean, hopefully we don't make the mistake of launching a military attack on Syria. I think it's a mistake to even publicly contemplate it. I think that if it was going to be done, it probably just should have been done. But I'm against it anyway. But I'm certainly against talking about it and then either doing it or not doing it. But when it comes to gold, I think gold is going to shine either way. I don't think what's happening in Syria is really relevant to the price of gold. I think gold is being driven by inflation and monetary policy around the world, but specifically in the United States. But we export our reckless inflationary monetary policy to other countries. But you also, you have Japan pursuing a similar type of policy. That's what's really driving gold. It's the debasement of currencies. It's people around the world looking for a safe haven, looking for a way to store their wealth. I mean, we started talking about India. There's a lot of inflation there, and Indians recognize that, and they're buying gold as a store of value because they can't store their value in the fiat currencies that their government is printing. And no matter how hard they try to convince their citizens to get rid of their gold, they're just going to keep on buying. They have to change the monetary policy that is causing the inflation. That is the reason that people are buying gold.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Peter Schiff, ever the gold bug, CEO of Euro Pacific Capital. Thanks for joining us. Let's now get the latest world and national news.